If we look at who's voting, and in the years when I was playing, it was always just a sports writer committee, basically voting for those players. We're talking about the media, and if the players didn't have a good bond with the media, if there wasn't a connection, if there was some kind of a rift, they weren't going to get the votes. And when it gets to a point after you pass the eligibility as active, then you go to the old timers committee. Now you've got players that are already in there who are looking down at these guys saying, well, they're not as good as I am, and I'm not going to vote for them. And I didn't have any connection with them. So they just don't get the votes, and yet they might have the statistics. I'm a Ron Santo fan. I'm sorry. I think he should. And you could look at other people with statistics that are going to be having questions, and I think you've got a question.
Well, let me ask you about Ron Santo. Does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, Rich?
Well, I played with him, and I watched him play third base 2 years in a row, and at the same time, the American League, Brooks Robinson was making fabulous plays and doing great things. Ron Santo, for 2 years in a row that I played with the Cubs, I think 67, 68, or 68, 69, had 100 more assists at third base than Brooks Robinson for both years. Golden Glove.
So that's a yes.
I think it's a yes. My downside was when I watched him in the press when I played with him, he was a hot-tempered Italian. It came off that way, and he didn't befriend the media. And I think the votes that he didn't get early on in his voting record, I think those votes reflect that.
I guess the consensus of opinion here is that it's both stats and a popularity contest.
Ron Santo, the Hall of Fame, yes or no?
I didn't, Ron was in the other league, and I didn't get an opportunity like Rich to watch him all the time, so I'm not a good guy to ask that
Kitty?
question.
I like Ron Santo. I like his son, too, and I don't think he is Hall of Fame material. When I look at the stats, being open, Moose Skowron played for the Yankees for years. He has 9 World Series rings, and I think he hit close to 300 most of his career. I mean, he's not even ever been a thought of being in the Hall of Fame, and he played on some wonderful teams. So, I just know what hard work and good stats are. Like I said, I would love to see him go. Don't get me wrong there. I wouldn't give him my first nod.
Well, how about Pete Rose? Does Pete Rose, the greatest hitter in the game, deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Eric, I'll start with you.
Absolutely, without question.
Really?
I mean, somebody said, who amongst us hasn't sinned? I remember a guy saying that, right? So, I mean, come on. I mean, the guy bet on a couple baseball games. I mean, I know thousands of guys I played with that were betting on football games and stuff. He just got caught.
Right.
I mean, come on. The guy was one of the best players, if not one of the best, probably was the best player. I mean, hit-wise anyway. I mean, that guy was fabulous. That guy's got to be in the Hall of Fame. It's ridiculous.
A true gamer. I go through all my memorabilia. I collect stuff. Eric collects stuff. And I found my old contract, my first one I got with the Dodgers. And on the bottom of the contract, it says there will be no gambling in professional Major League Baseball, period. And Timmy Stoddard, another friend of ours, we talk about that all the time. Pete Rose has all the numbers to be the best of the Hall of Famers, period. He deserves it. It was ugly. We got to learn how to forgive and let him go.
Amen.
Rich?
Well, and my only thought was, we talk about a mistake that Pete Rose made, and he bet on baseball, but his mistake was not just owning up to it and telling people he had a problem. If he had said that right off, he'd be in the Hall of Fame today. He'd have been in for years. Own up to your humanness.
Like Andy
and your
Pettit
errors.
did.
Right.
Like Andy Pettit.
Is
And you're
it
gonna be-
because
you
of his
will be
attitude?
forgiven.
Is that why he's not in the Hall of Fame?
Deny,
Right.
and then get caught. It just makes it look worse.
And then he says, I bet on baseball. I'm sorry. Let me in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you don't see the remorse, and if you come out and you're honest about it, to me that shows you're a little bit higher integrity.
It's a great lesson for us all in
think so.
society about how important it is to resonate with truth in your life.
Yes.
How about Barry Bonds? Does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Eric?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't care steroids or no steroids. Like we said earlier, there's a lot of guys out there hitting 220 on steroids. You still got to hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, man. And it takes a great talent to do that, and you don't hit 700-plus home runs without great talent.
Rich, Barry Bonds not liked. Does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
It's not a popularity contest. It's statistics.
So that's a yes. Kitty?
Absolutely.
Now, Kitty's not a fan of his,
I
so
know,
you
we
might
know
get a
you
different
don't like
response.
But he
Very
knows. But you know, I believe me. I've said this many times. I dislike the guy more than anybody on this planet. But he is a wonderful, great player, and he's had great numbers. I've never knocked that. All I did was ask him for an autograph, and kind of told me to go shit in my hat. But but the bottom line
Are we
is.
allowed to say that word on the show?
But the bottom line is he's got great stats, and he's a turd. His dad was a turd. I don't care,
Okay, well, we got a lot more to come on MouthpieceSports.com with our baseball legends. Sit tight.